All right, everyone, welcome back to Punk Rock Radar Does a Tier List. Today, we're talking about a band who loved Lawrence's Arms so much that they named their band after him. That's right, we're doing Lawrence Arms. So sit back and hold tight and let's kick it off.
All right, welcome back, guys. It's Lewis, guest hosting today here on Punk Rock Radar, talking about one of my favorite bands, which is the Lawrence Arms. So, guys, happy to be here and join you. How y'all doing, Matt? What's up with you? What's new? I see you got a mustache.
Yeah, I actually grew the mustache for this episode because I think the singer has a mustache. So I was like, you know what? Let me stand in solidarity with him and grow a mustache for this episode.
Very noble, right?
John, I see you didn't grow a mustache.
No, I wish Matt would have filled me in that's what we were doing because I would have started a few weeks ago so I can catch up and we all could have had nice mustaches. But yeah, this is a band I honestly haven't spent a ton of time with over the years, so I was happy to get more familiar with the catalog. Lewis, I know it's one of your favorite bands, so why don't you take us right into it with the first one?
Yeah, so for the first album we're going to be talking about, that's A Guided Tour of Chicago, which came out in 1999, which sadly is 23 years ago now, which is completely insane. But I believe this was their first studio album that came out on Asian Man Records. So, obviously a lot of bands out of Chicago got started there. Guided Tour of Chicago. I think it's a pretty good record. I think in comparison to the other records, and you guys kind of know the name of the game here, we try to limit where we put things into the tiers. For me, this album has pretty low production value. I think a lot of the songs are kind of underdeveloped. So for me, this one is going right in the D tier to start off. I hate to kind of start with a big fart there, but it's going in the D category for me. John, where do you got this one?
I agree with you. I'm also going D on this one. And this was like really my first full listen of this album. Like I've heard the songs like over the past 20 or so years, but I never really sat down and listened to it front to back. And it reminds me a ton of Jawbreaker. That's all I kept hearing when I was listening to this album. And it's fast, it's raw, but just not really my style of punk, and the production definitely brought it down for me. So I'm going D. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, so the things that you guys say you didn't really like that much about it, I kind of found myself drawn to it just for like the rawness of this album. So I'm putting this in the C tier for this album for myself.
Well, I guess we'll kick into the second one, which was the follow-up to Guided Tour, which was Ghost Stories, which came out in 2000. I think a vastly improved album overall, concept-wise, production slightly better than Guided Tour. I like this album significantly better. Keeping in the spirit of what I know is coming from this band in the next few years, I'm also going to have to put this one in the D category, but it's going to be a D plus for me. How about you, John?
That's funny, man. I'm right with you again. Yeah. And guys, we didn't compare lists or anything beforehand. We like to kind of talk about it as we go, but I'm with you. Like, I think this is a step up from the last one, but it's still just not there sonically for me. It's still very lo-fi sounding. I think the back half, starting at Light Breathing, is probably where it picks up for me, but still not enough to propel it past the D tier. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, so actually, I'm putting this one in the D tier as well. To me, I really feel like the Guided Tour of Chicago is better than this one, but this one doesn't belong in the C or B, so that's why I'm putting this one in D. There's no good taste in this
straight photo and stuff films. I should be disgraced. Well, I'm titillated. All right. Well, let's keep it going here, and let's talk about what I consider probably like the first really good Lawrence Arms record, which was Apathy and Exhaustion, which I believe is their first record that came out on Fat Wreck, right? And I think it was 2002. So Apathy and Exhaustion is an album that I had heard. I never really got into when I first heard it, but then when I got into the Lawrence Arms later, man, did I fall in love with this album. And just to show you like what I think as a jump from the previous record, this one is going firmly into the A category for me.
Oh, wow.
This is a super good record, pretty much from start to finish. I think I like every single song, and I just enjoyed listening to it the other day as well. So, John, what do you got on this one?
So I got a little bit of a surprise here for this one. And I think it's kind of nostalgia based. Like my first exposure to the Lawrence Arms was actually not a sample, like a promo CD. And it had 2 songs from American Paradox. It had 2 songs from this. And I remember really liking this, maybe not loving it, but going back and listening to all these, I think this is my favorite Lawrence Arms record. And I knocked one that I think you guys expected me to put here. I'm putting Apathy and Exhaustion in my S tier. This is going to be my only S, and we might as well explain it, guys. We're doing a maximum of 1 in the S tier. So that's it for me. This is my favorite Lawrence Arms record. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, so this is a great record. It's definitely a step up from the last 2. But for me, with what else they have, I feel like this is, best fits the B tier. For, when I was listening to this, I felt this was a B tier album.
All right, that's fair.
All right. So we'll move on to the next one, which is The Greatest Story Ever Told, which came out the next year right after Apathy and Exhaustion in 2003. I think this is a pretty good album. The Lawrence Arms are definitely doing a bit more experimentation on this one, trying some different musical styles. It's definitely an album that's all over the place sonically, I think. I think it is inferior to Apathy and Exhaustion. I still enjoy the record, but in the name of the game, it's going into the C category. So for me, it's a pretty big drop between this and the previous release.
All right. Yeah, I'm with you again, Lewis. It seems like we're pretty much lockstep, but guys, we decided to do the Lawrence Arms. Lewis and I were actually sitting in the car at the Stormville flea market waiting for a friend. And I think it was a song from this album that came on. And we were like, oh, the Lawrence Arms would be a fun band to do. And this was the one like I was looking forward to most, kind of revisiting, because I always see people talking about how good this is. And I really think like the album art and theming of it is like interesting and cool. So I really wanted to go back, revisit this one, but it just doesn't hit the same way as Apathy and Exhaustion and maybe a couple more that are coming up. So I'm going to put this one in my B tier. I think it's okay. I don't love it. I don't hate it. So B is the place for it for me. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, so actually I'm going to agree with Lewis on this one where, he said it was kind of all over the place with the styles, and that kind of threw me off a little bit. So I'm putting this one in the C tier.
Yeah. This is a hard one too, because it seems like everybody on the internet just comes about this album.
Yes.
So like so many lists that I saw, this was like considered the best. Yeah. So I've got 100 resolutions, but I've got no solution. I guess we'll move into the next one here, and we are going to talk about Cocktails and Dreams, which is the compilation album that came out in 2005, which is several of the EPs that the Lawrence Arms put out on Asian Man. This album, I mean, we don't like to rank compilation albums too high or give them too much credit, but for me, this is a pretty good record. I'm going to go ahead and put this one in the C category right next to The Greatest Story. I think there's definitely some stronger ones on here, and a lot of the ones that were just, never released or outside of compilations are the superior songs compared to some of the older stuff. But for me, it's a solid C.
All right. I have another little surprise here. I never listened to this before, but I found myself really liking a lot of these songs, so much that I'm putting this in my A tier. I know it may be a little weird, especially with what we have coming up, but I just really like the songs on here. I thought it blew the first 2 albums away. I liked it better than The Greatest Story, which I'm definitely going to catch heat for. But overall, as far as compilations go, I thought it was really, really good. No problem.
That Dancing Robot song is so good. I forget what the name of that one is. Sorry.
Yeah, like the first, I think there's a few unreleased songs that may have been from Apathy and Exhaustion, and then the rest are from the EPs. But yeah, I really liked it. Matt, where are you putting this one?
You know what, John? I am totally on pace with you with this one. This is A for me all the way. I know that may be a little odd, but I felt like I was coming back to this album, during my 2 weeks listen of like their whole discography. And this one really caught my attention. I really did enjoy listening to this one.
Nice. There you go.
There you go. You guys are inside. Yeah. So it's not Dancing Robot. It's Presenting the Dancing Machine. I couldn't remember the name of the song, but that is a very good song. So, all right, we'll move along. So,
I never tried that, but I know I don't like it. Or maybe I do, and I just do it to fight it. Maybe I do, and I just do it.
So I think this, I don't know if this would be considered the Lawrence Arms breakout album, but Oh Calcutta from 2006 was certainly the time when I saw the Lawrence Arms getting a lot more notoriety, or at least in my circle of friends. So I believe that we saw them on tour with NoFX, and they were just ripping shit up with this album. This is an excellent album. For me, this is an A. It's listenable from beginning to end. It's fast. It's got a lot of dual vocals on it, which is always good to hear on a lot of these bands. So this one used to be my favorite Lawrence Arms, and we'll get to my favorite in a little bit, but this one is my A. What about you, John?
Yeah, I fully intended to put this one in S, but Apathy edged it out. But I think this is A, and we saw them a ton. It was NoFX and Dillinger 4, I think, on that tour.
I think so.
And we saw them in the city. We saw them in Atlantic City. Maybe another show too, but yeah, that's where we really both started to get into them. I think we had like a lot of discussions like, hey man, this Lawrence Arms band is pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's a live show.
Yeah, so I feel comfortable putting this in the A. Thought it was going to be my S, but Matt, where are you putting Oh Calcutta?
Yeah, Old Calcutta is a great album, but I'm putting this one in A as well. I feel like there's some pretty not that great songs in here. I feel like the first half of this is great. And then once you get towards the later half of the album, I feel like there's more shitters than gems.
I really like the later half of this album too, though. I don't know. I think. What do you think the standout is on this album? I mean, Cut It Up didn't even make their greatest hits album, which I was like shocked.
Yeah, that's weird. That's my favorite song on the album. Cut It Up and Devil's Taking Names would be my two favorites.
Are You There, Margaret? Is Meet God.
Yeah,
is a great song.
it's a great song. That one made the greatest hits too,
Yeah.
and I think the Devil's Taking Names did, but Cut It Up did it, which was really weird. But that, yeah, I have
Great Escapes. I mean,
yeah. I have some problems with the choices they pick for their greatest hits album, but we're not covering it here today. So,
The time ain't gonna stop just because you walk away.
all right, so let's kick into an EP, which would be like the last Lawrence Arms content for a little bit. They would kind of take a little mini break after this, which was Buttsweat and Tears. And what was this, 2009?
Yeah.
John? I missed the date. Yeah. So this was just 5 songs. Apparently, the Lawrence Arms always wanted to just do an EP with this exact name and this art, and then just like five really good songs. And I think they really delivered. I think this is a really excellent EP. All 5 songs are really listenable. I'm putting this one into the B category, maybe a little high for an EP, but I go back to this one quite a bit. What do you think, John?
All right, album name S tier. But even like as I get older, like I definitely prefer EPs. Like sometimes I don't want to sit down and listen to 10, 12, 14 songs. But I don't know, man. Like I feel like this is Oh Calcutta Part 2, but it doesn't hit the same way for me. I don't find myself going back to this one, so I'm going C with Buttsweat. Yeah. I had it in A to start. I switched this and Cocktails and Dreams. But yeah, I'm comfortable going C here. Matt, what about you with this one?
So this one is going to be, for me, this is going to be down in the D tier for me. I just couldn't get into this one, so this one's going to be D. I may get some heat for that, but it wasn't up. It wasn't my style. I didn't really like it.
Fair enough.
All right, so kicking into the next album, about a 5-year hiatus, they came back with Metropole in 2014. I'm just going to get it out of the way. It's kind of build up to this. This is my S tier. I think Metropole is the best Lawrence Arms album, and better than that, it's probably in my top 25 albums of all time for sure. I love this album. I think I've bought it like 3 different times in different formats. And this was the album that I wouldn't shut up about. Like when it came out, I was like just telling John, I'm like, I mean, with this sequence of records, there's like a trinity going on of how good these records are. So this album still sticks with me. I think it's excellent from beginning to end. So pure S tier all day. So John, what about you?
Yeah, you're 100% right. You've been selling this album to me for what, 8? Is it 8 years now? Yeah.
It's something like that.
About
Yeah.
8 years, and I'm not somebody who tries to like albums, and that's really what I've tried to do with this one. I don't know what it is. I just can't get into it. It's just not my style. Like, I know there's interesting stuff going on lyrically and theming and whatnot, but I'm more of like an on the surface punk rock fan. Just like music is the most important thing, and it just doesn't vibe for me. So I'm sorry, Lewis. I'm sticking with C. I'm sticking with my gut. I'm going C. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I couldn't really vibe with this one either. So when I listen to these albums, I mostly do it like when I'm working, and when I'm working, I get into a good flow. But like listening to this album like really messed my flow up at work. So I'm putting this one actually in B. So it wasn't that bad, but I'm putting it in B.
Oh my God, I love this album so much. Like, it doesn't upset me that you don't like it that much, but I'm just like surprised because I think it's just so freaking good.
I tried. Like, I probably listened to this maybe 5 or 6 times in a row. I'm like trying to connect with that song, and it just kept playing and going. And next thing I know, I'm back at track 1, and I'm like, man, it doesn't hit me. There's nothing that really pulls me into the album. I was just kind of in like a lull state.
Yeah.
I tried.
The YMCA. Yeah, that was the big one.
I crackle like a radio wave. Remix status in a western state.
All right, well, I guess we're on to the last album here. So we're going to be talking about 2020's recent Skeleton Coast. Now, this was an album that didn't connect with me when it first came out. I probably listened to it once or twice. It was like, meh. And then I put it down for about a year. And then when we started talking about this, I kind of forced myself to listen to it again. And I think I underrated it the first time, and it definitely impacted in my tiers. So as you can see, I have 1 spot left there in the B tier. So that is where it's going. I think this is a pretty strong album. I don't think it's as strong as the previous records, but for me, it's competent. It's, pretty much listenable all throughout. A solid record. So I'm going all B. How about you, John?
I'm with you, man. This was my riser. The first time I heard this, it was like right about when I started Punk Rock Radar. So I was trying to listen to a ton of music. So I kind of heard that it was like a little slower, not really my style, and I just pushed it to the back, never listened to it. And then come back to 2 weeks ago where we decided to do this list, and I like this one. I like it better than Metropole. I like it better than Buttsweat. Probably like it better than Greatest Story even. This is probably album number 4 for me. I think it was pretty good. Not my favorite, but solid. Matt, where are you putting it?
Yeah, so this album I felt like is definitely better. Not better, I'm sorry, than Metropole. So I'm putting this actually in C, John. I know I do have an empty spot up there in S. But for me, I couldn't quite get on, I guess, the wagon with Lawrence Arms. I felt like they didn't really have an S tier album, in my opinion, my mind, listening to all their music. So that's why I have my S blank up there. So hopefully their next album can fill my void of not being an S.
Well, hopefully they see this and then they work a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So Matt, is your favorite then O Calcutta, or is it the
Yeah, it's Old Calcutta. So that's definitely my favorite album by them. But to me, I just don't know if this, my opinion, is if their S quality, any of their albums are a true S tier.
No, if I was going to have 2 S's, O Calcutta was going to be my other S.
Same.
So, yeah, it's a really good album. I mean, Apathy and Exhaustion as an S for you is really surprising, John, because I really didn't think you liked that record that much, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I feel like maybe it's like a little bit of the nostalgia, which is weird because I was never a huge Lawrence Arms fan, but like I think Porno and Snuff Films is probably my favorite Lawrence Arms song. And then you got Abracadabra, which not only is a great song name, but it's a great song in there too. I just felt like there was more standouts than Oh Calcutta, which for me is like the first two songs are, I know you guys disagree, but the first two for me are like leaps and bounds above the rest of it. But yeah, that's my list. I don't feel great about it. Like I shifted it more than I've shifted any other band's list, mostly because I wasn't too familiar with more than half of these. But how do you guys feel about your list?
I feel like maybe I put Cocktails too low. Maybe I got to give it another, listen after you guys gave it such a high rank. I mean, it's an album I don't go back to a lot, but maybe it's worth another listen again. So I might have to reconsider that one.
Yeah, and I think I'm pretty happy with my list. Maybe I'll give them another listen and see maybe if there is an album that's truly deserving to be in that S tier. But yeah, so I stand by it, and let me know in the comments if you agree with my list.
All right, guys. So that's going to wrap up our tier list video. Nice and short for you guys today. It's the first one we did in under 20 minutes. But up next, we've got Matt's pick, which was Newfound Glory. And then we're going to do either Face to Face or Good Riddance after that. I haven't decided what my pick's going to be. But guys, make sure you like the video if you enjoyed this, even though Matt doesn't have an S. And make sure you subscribe. We just hit 400 this week.
Ooh.
We're very thankful for that. And we just hit 5,000 on Instagram. So make sure you're following on both. And that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching.
Yes.
Cheers.